Good evening, I'm Juliana and you're watching CTV News. We have a special segment to start off. It is a story about a Victoria woman and her life with ALS. Joining in the program as well is world-renowned Dr. Hopkins, who is most recently credited for his research in ALS. ALS, or amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, is more commonly known as Lou Gehrig's, which is a muscle degenerative disease. Essentially, the motor neurons that control muscle function slowly die, affecting every muscle in the body, and it becomes fatal when it affects the respiratory system. There's a signal that starts in your brain when you want to move your arm, per se. It travels down your spinal cord to that muscle to make it move. With ALS, the signal begins to atrophy over time without any reason at all. Now, there are two types of ALS. The first one is sporadic, and it's the majority of all ALS cases, about 90%. And it means that it occurs with no reason at all. It's completely random. The second one is familial, or genetic ALS, which is about 5 to 10% of cases. And the individual inherits the disease from his or her parents. And interesting enough, it only requires one parent to carry the gene to be passed on to that son or daughter. So ALS usually affects people between the ages of 40 and 70, although it can occur in people as early as their 20s and 30s, but it's not as common. We more see it in men than in women, although as age increases, it becomes more equal between the two. Usually it's seen in Caucasians and non-Hispanics, and it affects every 1 in 100,000 people. So 50% will live at least 3 years, then another 20% will live for 5 years, and then only 10% from that will live more than 10 years. So it's a very aggressive disease. It doesn't give you much time once you've been diagnosed. My name is Olivia. I am 48 years old, and I have been living with ALS for almost 2 years now. It all started when I had trouble zipping up my jacket. My fingers couldn't grip it right, and it felt like I couldn't get any strength to them. And then my husband started to notice that I was slurring my words as well. It's just so unbelievably frustrating, wanting to do something you could do yesterday, only to wake up and find that you can't do it anymore. I used to rely on my husband a lot for everything, which is a lot of strain on him. But now I have a caretaker, and she's here 24/7 for me for anything that I need at all. And she's absolutely wonderful, and I'm really grateful for her. It's really difficult to explain, but I basically feel like I'm trapped in my own body. I can still think and feel and touch, but I can't move very much. This is basically as far as I get. If I need to move at all, I ask my caretaker to come, or if my husband's available, and if I need a drink of water, I can kind of move my head over like this, but I can't move my arms very much. And eventually, I won't be able to speak or eat, and that's really scary looking forward. I am just so grateful to have all the support of my family and friends and my caretaker, and I don't know how anyone can live like this on their own. It's absolutely terrifying. You need help, and even though it gets hard to ask people to do everything for you, there's no other way around it. Olivia and I go way back. We met on the volleyball court in grade 6. We were both the worst players by far, and ever since that day, we bonded. We've been best friends. We did absolutely everything together. We were always being mistaken for sisters or twins, although I can't really see the resemblance. But she remains so positive throughout this whole process, and I know how hard this is for her to see me walk and dance and eat around her, and she can't do any of it. And watching her go through that has been so hard because there's nothing that I can do. I can't make her feel better. I can't do anything. You know, your best friend is supposed to be there to lift you up, and talking about times in the past is great, but then you just see this sadness come over her face because she can't do it anymore. She's so young and full of life, and she's got so many years ahead of her, and it just makes me so sad to see that she has to live the best years of her life as a ticking time bomb, just slowly waiting for her body to shut down one by one. It's terrible. I don't wish that upon my best friend. I wish that there was something that I could do, or if I could help research, or anything I could do to make her feel more comfortable. Now, no one test can provide a definitive diagnosis, but it's primarily based on a detailed history of symptoms and signs observed by a patient's physician. Usually we order EMGs, which is electromyography. It's a recording technique that detects electrical activity of the muscle fibers, so we can see what's firing, how many are firing, if nothing is firing. Sometimes we'll also order an MRI to provide a detailed image of the brain and spinal cord, and then you can also do lab tests. It's a very high cost for medical care, equipment, home care, especially in the later stages of the person's life. There is one drug that was approved by the FDA in 1995, and it's called Riluzole. I can never say that word, even though I'm a doctor. It prolongs the patient's life by a few months, which is good, but a few months isn't much, and it costs $200 per pill, so quite pricey, and depending on your medical care coverage, it might cover it, or you might be paying that out of your pocket. So the best thing that has come out recently is the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. It created a huge wave of awareness, and it raised more than $100 million in the summer of 2014. So researchers just announced that they had identified a new gene associated with the disease, which could lead to new treatment possibilities. So very exciting to look forward to that. ALS is a truly terrible disease. Having lived with it for 2 years now, I don't wish it upon anyone. I can't stress how important it is to keep raising awareness, because it is clearly doing something beneficial to research. Please help find a cure for ALS. That is just a glimpse into the life of a person living with ALS. To find out more, check out ctvnews.ca. Thanks for watching tonight's episode, and we'll see you back here in a few minutes for the local news.